My husband left me for a woman 33 years younger and expected me to fall apart. Instead, I became the happiest I'd been in decades. My name is Claire Patterson, and at 72 years old, I thought I knew exactly how the rest of my life would look. I thought Robert and I would spend our retirement together. We would complain about our aching knees, spoil our grandchildren, and finally take the vacations we had postponed for years. After all, we had survived nearly 5 decades together, 47 years of marriage, 3 children, countless sacrifices, enough memories to fill several lifetimes. I believed that meant something. Apparently, Robert disagreed. The day he left started like any other Tuesday. I was making coffee when he walked into the kitchen carrying a suitcase. At first, I assumed he was helping one of the kids. Then I noticed he wouldn't look at me. My stomach tightened. "What's going on?" I asked. He took a deep breath. "I've met someone," just 4 words. 4 words that shattered our 47 years. I laughed because surely this had to be some terrible joke. It wasn't. Her name was Vanessa. She was 39, a wellness coach who taught meditation classes at the community center. Robert was 72. I remember staring at him, waiting for reality to correct itself. Instead, he kept talking. I deserved to feel alive again. Alive, as though our marriage had been some kind of prison sentence, as though the woman who stood beside him through bankruptcies, illnesses, and sleepless nights was somehow responsible for his unhappiness. I didn't scream. I didn't throw things. I simply sat down because suddenly I felt exhausted. A week later, he moved into Vanessa's apartment. A month later, he filed for divorce. And just like that, the life I'd spent decades building was gone. At first, the loneliness was unbearable. Every room in our old Victorian house carried memories. The hallway where our children learned to ride toy bikes. The kitchen where we celebrated birthdays. The porch where Robert and I once sat for hours talking about our future. Now, the silence felt endless. My children were furious. Sarah wanted to fly across the country immediately. Michael threatened to confront his father. Jennifer, the lawyer, started researching divorce options before I even asked. But eventually, I told all of them the same thing. Let me handle this. The truth was, I didn't know how. I just knew I had to. The divorce process moved quickly, too quickly. Robert seemed eager to erase our marriage. He signed paperwork without reading most of it. He agreed to let me keep the house because he considered it a burden. The place needed repairs. The roof leaked. The kitchen looked trapped in another century. He wanted freedom, not responsibility. When everything became official, I found myself standing alone in the living room. For several minutes, I simply looked around. Then, something unexpected happened. Instead of sadness, I felt possibility. For years, I'd suggested renovating the house. Robert always had excuses. Too expensive. Too much work. Maybe next year. Next year never came. Now I realized something. Nobody could stop me anymore. The following morning, I called a contractor. His name was Luis. He walked through the house, taking notes while I explained my ideas. When I finished, he smiled. "You really love this place." "I do." "Then let's save it." That single sentence changed everything. The renovation became my mission, my purpose, my fresh start. Every day brought progress. Walls came down. Floors were restored. Ancient plumbing disappeared. Sunlight flooded rooms that had felt dark for years. The house slowly transformed, But something else transformed too. Me. I stopped waking up thinking about Robert. I started waking up excited about possibilities. I learned how to choose paint colors, how to restore antique woodwork, how to negotiate contractor prices. At 72 years old, I was learning new skills and building a future. Meanwhile, news about Robert occasionally reached me. Apparently, his new life wasn't quite as magical as he'd imagined. Vanessa loved expensive restaurants, weekend retreats, luxury vacations. Robert's retirement savings started disappearing faster than expected. But I didn't pay much attention. I was too busy rebuilding my own life. 7 months later, the renovation was finished. The transformation was incredible. The outdated Victorian had become stunning. Original hardwood floors gleamed. The kitchen looked magazine-worthy. The bathrooms felt luxurious. Even I struggled to believe it was the same house. Then came the surprise. A real estate agent visited to assess the property. She spent nearly an hour touring the home. Finally, she sat across from me and smiled. "Claire, do you know what this house is worth now?" I shook my head. Her answer nearly made me drop my coffee. "Over $1 million. For several seconds, I couldn't speak. When Robert and I purchased the house decades earlier, we'd paid less than $80,000. Now, it was worth more than I ever imagined. The agent suggested listing it immediately. The market was hot. Historic homes were in demand. Within days, we received multiple offers. The highest exceeded asking price. When the sale finalized, I walked away with enough money to completely change my future. For the first time in my life, financial freedom belonged entirely to me, not us, me. I bought a beautiful condo overlooking Lake Champlain. I invested wisely. I planned trips I'd postponed for decades. Italy, France, Greece, places I dreamed about while folding laundry and balancing family budgets. Then, just when I thought that chapter had ended, Robert called. The moment I heard his voice, I knew something was wrong. "Claire, can we talk?" His confidence was gone, replaced by desperation. Apparently, Vanessa had left him. A younger entrepreneur she'd met at a retreat offered a more exciting future. Robert had become yesterday's adventure. The irony would have been funny if it weren't so sad. He asked to meet. Against my better judgment, I agreed. When he arrived, I barely recognized him. He looked older. Not because of age, because regret ages people faster than time. We sat across from each other. For a while, neither of us spoke. Then he finally said it. "I made a mistake." I nodded. "Yes, you did." His eyes filled with tears. "I thought I was chasing happiness. And it turns out happiness was sitting beside me all along." For a moment, I felt sorry for him. Not because I wanted him back, because I remembered the man he used to be. The man who once danced with me at county fairs. The man who held my hand when our children were born. The man I'd loved for nearly 50 years. But that man no longer existed. The man sitting across from me had destroyed something precious, chasing an illusion. "I want another chance," he whispered. There it was, the request I knew was coming. I looked at him carefully. Years earlier, I might have said yes. Years earlier, I would have felt responsible for fixing everything. Not anymore. "Robert," I said gently, "when you left, I thought my life was over." His shoulders lowered. But it wasn't. I told him about the renovation, the friendships I'd built, the confidence I'd discovered, the trips I planned to take, the life I'd created without him. By the time I finished speaking, he looked devastated. Not because I'd been cruel, because he finally understood. I wasn't waiting for him anymore. The woman he'd abandoned had learned how to thrive. "I still love you," he said quietly. I smiled sadly. "No, Robert." He looked confused. "You love the memory of what I gave you." The room fell silent. "You miss having someone who believed in you no matter what." Tears appeared in his eyes. "But that's not enough anymore." For a long moment, he stared at the floor. Then he nodded. Slowly, painfully, like someone accepting a truth they couldn't change. When he stood to leave, he paused at the door. "I'm sorry." This time, I believed him. Not because I wanted reconciliation, because regret had finally made him honest. After he left, I stood by the window, watching him drive away, and I felt something unexpected. Peace. Not anger, not satisfaction. Peace. Because forgiveness doesn't always mean reconciliation. Sometimes it simply means refusing to carry bitterness any longer. A year later, I celebrated my 73rd birthday in Tuscany. I sat beneath golden sunlight with friends, laughing over wine and fresh pasta. The air smelled like olive trees and possibility. As I looked across the countryside, I thought about everything that had happened. The betrayal, the heartbreak, the divorce, the loneliness. Every painful moment had pushed me toward a life I never would have discovered otherwise. For decades, I believed my story was about marriage, about being a wife, about supporting someone else's dreams. I was wrong. My story was about finding myself again. And sometimes, life teaches its most important lessons when everything falls apart. Robert left because he wanted to feel alive. The funny thing is that losing him finally made me feel alive too. Not because he was gone, because I finally stopped asking permission to become the person I was always meant to be. And that changed everything.